When Trajan took power, Rome was already vast, but he made it legendary. A soldier emperor with calloused hands and a conqueror's heart, he pushed the empire to its absolute limit. From the sun-blasted sands of Arabia to the dark forests of Dacia, Trajan led from the front, crossing rivers on war bridges, laying siege to mountain fortresses, and dragging Roman standards farther than they had ever gone. Under his reign, the empire stretched from Britain to the Persian Gulf. Roads, forums, and monuments followed, but so did blood. This is the story of Rome at its height, and of the emperor who built its glory on ambition, discipline, and war. At its peak, the empire never looked stronger or more overextended. Embark with us on a journey through time, where amidst the expansive empire of Rome, an extraordinary story unfolds. The tale of Trajan. Born not amid the splendour of Rome, but in the quaint Roman colony of Italica, now modern Spain, Trajan's journey began far from the epicentre of power. Picture the dusty streets of this Iberian town, where Roman culture met local traditions. In the fragrant air of olive groves, young Trajan, Marcus Ulpius Traianus, was nurtured on stories of martial glory and imperial grandeur. Here, deep in the fields and under crumbling city walls, the seeds of greatness were sown in his heart. Delving into the roots of what made Trajan remarkable requires a glimpse into the vibrant yet rugged community of Italica. This first Roman colony in Hispania was a melting pot where native strengths met Roman discipline. Among its pivotal families was the Ulpius lineage. Trajan the Elder, his father, was a decorated hero of the empire, whose tales of valour echoed through their home. Imagine young Trajan, moulded amid the clang of armour and stories of battlefield honour, fostering an inner fire that would steer his ambitions. Trajan's road to power was not a mere stroke of luck. As he matured, the young and ambitious soldier set his sights beyond his provincial beginnings, drawn to the heart of Rome, a city pulsing with the ambitions of many. Picture him first stepping into Rome, eyes wide with wonder and a desire to carve his mark into its grand structures. Trajan's rise to power, however, required more than dreams. It was a saga of astute strategy and alliances, where his charisma resonated with both senators and common soldiers. His military prowess and political acumen soon rose to prominence across the Roman expanse. Trajan was more than a commander. He was an inspiring leader who earned fierce loyalty through campaigns marked by tactical genius. Through each conquest, from Germania's volatile frontiers to the very edges of the empire, Trajan's reputation was forged in iron and blood, setting the stage for his broader ambitions. The pivotal moment in Trajan's ascent was his adoption by Emperor Nerva, a calculated manoeuvre driven by an empire teetering on political brinkmanship. This act of adoption was more than a mere succession plan. It was a radical shift from dynastic inheritance to merit-based leadership, positioning Trajan to become emperor. By endorsing Trajan, Nerva signalled a shift, acknowledging the potential within Rome's vast territories and preparing Rome for a reign anchored by military prowess. When Trajan ascended the throne, he symbolised the emergence of a new epoch, a soldier king whose credentials were unquestionable. His transition was seamless, buoyed by the legion's loyalty and the senatorial class's cautious approval. Trajan carried an aura of stability and vigour, promising expansion and consolidation as tenets of his reign. Imagining the solemnity of ancient Rome welcoming his rule conjures visions of a city keen for rejuvenation, eager for an era of envisioned expansion and stability. Yet Trajan's rise also epitomised a future where provincial influence blossomed at Rome's core. His story was a beacon for others from the provinces, a representation of broader horizons beyond Rome's ancient patrician families. Trajan's reign did not just open avenues for cultural and political inclusivity, but reshaped the dynamics of power, celebrating achievement over aristocratic entitlement. This inclusivity fostered a symbiotic relationship with Rome's territories, pushing its cultural borders ever outward, cementing the province's significance in the empire's tapestry. But as Trajan took his place at Rome's helm, the empire sat on the brink of transformative change. The well-founded edifice of Roman dominance stood tall, yet beneath lay restive currents of transition. Trajan, the astute visionary, recognized the swirling tides of change and the demands they placed on a leader's shoulders. With both ambition and understanding, Trajan engineered campaigns and policies to strengthen and expand Rome, weaving martial strength with shrewd governance into Rome's legacy. The enduring questions of governance, loyalty, and continuity underscored Trajan's reign, casting a shadow even as Rome luxuriated in its newfound prowess. Yet, Trajan's reign, bridging the paradoxes between conquest and governance, imbued his leadership with the dexterity necessary to steer Rome toward its zenith. By embracing Rome's dualities, an empire forged in war and sustained in peace, Trajan's rule unlocked a legacy, marked by growth and glory, etched into the roads over which Rome's legions would march toward an illustrious future. Trajan's tale begins not in Rome's marble heart, but along its dusty, far-off frontiers. Born in Italica, a provincial town in modern-day Spain, into a military family, Trajan's life from the outset swam in the traditions of Rome's legions. His father, a commander of repute, guided him beyond mere rote learning, crafting a son who understood battle's realities not from scrolls, but through the dirt and clash of campaigns. Trajan distinguished himself among soldiers not merely by birthright, but through a sync with their ordeals, knowing the pang of hunger and the sweat of exertion. This grounded understanding fashioned him into a leader whose rise through ranks was not of noble obligation, but respect born from genuine camaraderie. Soldiers saw him as one of their own, not an aristocrat pretending to bleed. Upon reaching the rank of general, Trajan shattered conventional imperial approaches. Eschewing the luxuries of command tents, he chose to live as his men did, sharing the firelight shadows, the rain's chill, and the taste of sparse rations. It was here that Trajan carved out his leadership ethos, one rooted in shared hardship and respect. This wasn't pretense for morale. Trajan roamed the camps not as an occasional figure of inspiration, but as a steady presence, nurturing a bond beyond rigid hierarchy. His egalitarian demeanour and commitment to the same earth and toil heaped loyalty upon him, unparalleled since the days of Julius Caesar. To camp whispers and marching songs, he emerged as the emperor who was primus inter pares, first among equals, the very spirit of Rome personified. Beyond the battlefield, Trajan's legacy wove through engineering marvels, fortresses and roads stretching like lifelines across the empire. His vision wasn't limited to Rome's grandeur, but encompassed remote provinces. With craftsmanship as much in stone as in strategy, he pushed highways that sped legions and trade across a continent. This infrastructural prowess laid the groundwork for an empire as interconnected as it was expansive, uniting distant lands while fortifying defences. The roads bolstered more than military goals. They stitched economic and social fabrics tighter, ensuring Roman news and culture traversed from desert sands to darkened forests in unprecedented flows. At the heart, Trajan understood that true loyalty was earned through deeds, unadorned with fear or coercion. His leadership thrived on transparency, accessible far beyond traditional command chains. By valuing discussions among ranks, he fostered an era where soldiers felt their voices carried weight, not as murmurs lost to patrician deafness, but as integral chords in the empire's symphony of conquest. Trust became not an edict, but a tradition, a radiance kindled within his legions. In battle, Trajan's presence invigorated legionary spirits. Preceding victories and defeats as collective ventures, he wove his fate tightly with those he commanded. Clad in armour, sword glistening under the same sun, Trajan stood as a testament that victory's mantle, or defeat's shadow, fell equally upon all. Stories of his valour, retold by survivors of skirmishes, painted him less a distant ruler and more the battle-hardened shepherd of Rome's expansive flock. His campaigns weren't royal declarations, but promises shared in sweat and soil. Engaged directly in combat, Trajan gained profound insights into warfare's brutal arts, refining them into strategic wisdom. This knowledge, hard-earned in battle rather than distant strategy rooms, forged an emperor responsive and adaptable. His strategies resonated with calculated agility across diverse provinces, outpacing foes through inventive flexibility honed by years amidst throes of combat. These innovations exemplified a leader shaped by the burdens of battle firsthand, crafting his empire with lessons of both triumph and loss. Trajan's reign moved beyond typical military divides. Respect was earned rather than assumed. His policies opened dialogue in military ranks, fostering loyalty with dignity. Bonds between officers and men grew, shared stories were woven anew, and the communal spirit thrived. These connections ensured the imperial machine ran more fluidly, an iron discipline tempered with the hammer of shared purpose. Judicious and fair, Trajan administered both command and justice. His decisions on the battlefield were not whims of sovereign excess, but measured acts reflecting soldierly honour. By valuing fairness above impulse, he unravelled fears of arbitrary imperial wrath, cultivating an enduring trust that pulsed through his legion's veins, encouraging them onward. The echoes of Trajan's leadership extended past his life, underscoring an imperial identity driven by authenticity. His example reshaped future governance, epitomising a commitment to lead collaboratively, blurring lines between power and citizenry. His influence inspired an empire to aspire to humaneness amidst grandeur, leaving an indelible mark on Rome's stone tapestry. As history traces its patterns, Trajan's path underscores leadership's essence. Immersed, empathetic, formed through shared journeys with those one commands. His life, a meditation on engagement and empathy, serves as a beacon of balanced authority, fostering bonds stronger than stone or steel. Trajan remains the soldier emperor, whose reign testified not merely in conquest but in compassion. The lands of Dacia, modern-day Romania, were a tantalizing enigma for the Roman Empire. Its lush forests and rolling hills, rich with gold, gleamed with promise, yet concealed daunting challenges. Despite the allure of these riches, the fierce Dacians, led by the formidable King Decebalus, had long resisted Roman encroachment. For Trajan, the conquest of Dacia was not merely about wealth, it was a chance to erase Rome's past failures and write his name into history as the emperor who turned Roman setbacks into triumph. The wounds of previous clashes were fresh, with Dacia yet to be subdued, having inflicted scars on Roman pride during Domitian's reign. Trajan aimed to correct this, to dismantle Decebalus's fortifications and to integrate this elusive territory into the empire. This wasn't just strategic, it was personal, a battlefield calling for his leadership and resolve. Preparation was meticulous. Trajan, embodying both warrior and engineer, orchestrated every logistical detail for his campaign. Scouts studied the tough, forbidding terrain, while negotiations with defectors provided valuable insights. Fortifications along the frontier were bolstered, warehouses brimming with supplies, and a great bridge over the Danube was constructed by the renowned architect Apollodorus of Damascus. This bridge was more than a feat of engineering. It stood as an unyielding declaration of Rome's intent to stay. As Trajan's legions crossed into Dacia, the air crackled with expectation and tension. Skirmishes erupted into full-scale war as provocations met with daring raids. Trajan's strategies faced the Dacian guerrilla tactics devised by Decebalus, initially sowing chaos among the Romans, but Trajan's relentless pursuit, fortified by reinforcements and indomitable tenacity, sustained the imperial advance. The Roman siege of Dacian strongholds was pivotal. Sarmizegetusa, the Dacian capital, rose dauntingly amidst the Carpathians, seemingly invincible. Within its towering walls, Decebalus orchestrated a defence that seemed in sync with the rugged landscape. Yet, step by step, the Romans encroached. Trajan's column, though filtered through the lens of Roman victory, captures these momentous campaigns, depicting the grand marches and fierce sieges. Siege towers and catapults battered the Dacian defences, a symphony of destruction, underscored by the cries of battle. Trajan, ever present, inspired his men with an unwavering presence amid these grueling battles. The Dacians, with valour etched in their souls, fought back relentlessly, yet Rome's inexorable march pressed on, guided by expertise and sheer numbers. As Sarmizegetusa's stalwart walls finally yielded, Decebalus's defiance became legendary. In the face of Rome's might, he continued to orchestrate a desperate resistance, refusing to capitulate easily. His eventual retreat into the wilds marked a poignant defiance, a leader choosing freedom on his own terms over subjugation. His suicide, an act of sovereignty, underscored a poignant realization that some battles were fought not just for land but for dignity. In this complex tapestry of conquest, Trajan achieved a costly victory, acknowledging the tenacity of his opponents. Dacia's wealth, including its coveted gold, fueled the Roman Empire. But the spectres of the struggle lingered, woven into the monuments funded by war spoils and blood. Dacia's annexation reshaped Rome, sending ripples through its cultural and economic landscape. The treasures touched every aspect of Roman life, supporting grand projects and monuments that eternalized Trajan's achievements and Rome's reach. Yet the conquest was about more than just material gain. It brought the essence of the Dacians into the Roman sphere, a testament to the cultural interplay and the stories of defiance enduring beyond subjugation. Roman culture began embedding itself into Dacia, bringing roads, governance, and an uneasy blend of two worlds. Amidst Romanization, the echoes of Decebalus's stand whispered through generations, unearthing a legacy of resilience against the tides of conquest. The tales of Dacian tenacity became folklore, narrating the saga of a proud people. This spirit, indomitable and defiant, persisted through transformations, a cultural fabric altered, yet anchored by memories of autonomy. Trajan's column, spiralling skyward, immortalized this blend of tragedy and triumph. It bore witness to a relentless quest, offering future generations a glimpse into the heart of a complex history woven by ambition and resistance. In the grand calculus of empire, the conquest of Dacia illustrates harsh realities and profound insights, a journey through ambition, conflict, and legacy. Trajan's victories carved deep lines in the narrative of Rome, establishing echoes that resonate in the wider chronicles of human strife and sovereignty. These events stand not just as relics of a bygone era, but as enduring reflections on the cost of dreams realized through war, the balance of power and the indomitable spirit of peoples and places forever marked by history's unfolding testament. Trajan's Forum, an audacious creation, was more than a mere public space. In its sweeping ambition, it stood as a testament to the emperor's vision, a symbol not only of Roman political power, but of the spirit that defined Rome at its zenith. The Forum was conceived as a marvel meant to inspire awe, a lasting emblem of grandeur. Here the rustling of togas and the murmur of voices mingled with the echoes of past victories, making it the very heart of Rome, where society's diverse tapestries were woven together. Senators convened, merchants traded, and the everyday hum of civilization thrived within its confines. This monumental undertaking was fueled by the empire's need not just for functionality, but for an enduring symbol of cultural triumph. Involving vast resources and unmatched ingenuity, the creation of this forum required overcoming immense challenges. Trajan drew deeply upon the spoils from Dacia and engaged the finest architectural minds in the empire. The task was formidable, clearing land in Rome's densely packed core and sourcing superior materials from across the known world. The sheer scale of what had to be done underscored Trajan's relentless resolve to memorialize his empire's achievements through a structure echoing with tales of conquest and civilization. At the center of this magnificent creation stood the Basilica Ulpia, an architectural feat of unparalleled scale and opulence. The basilica was not merely a place of administration or law, but stood as a statement of might. Its towering marble columns and vast glittering roof showcased the immovable strength of Rome. Every stone and each carved detail spoke a language of dominance and artistic refinement. Yet the crown jewel of Trajan's Forum was the iconic Trajan's Column. Spiraling upward with detailed friezes, this column chronicled Trajan's victories in Dacia. Each relief was a meticulous narrative, an enduring art piece that elevated the column to both a historic record and a stunning feat of engineering. It stood as an unyielding symbol of imperial power and artistic genius. Beyond its physical manifestation, the Forum was rich with symbolic intent. Statues of gods such as Jupiter and Mars lent their divine favour to the enterprise, underlining beliefs that the gods endorsed Trajan's rule. Meanwhile, incarnations of peace, pax, and victory, Victoria, whispered the emperor's achievements through silent eloquence. Every corner of this grand structure and its symbolic elements told intertwined stories of military valour and divine blessing. Trajan's Forum thus transcended political propaganda, leaving indelible impressions on the Roman consciousness by weaving a narrative of enduring greatness. In addition to symbolising power, Trajan's Forum became an economic engine powered by Dacian gold, revitalising Rome. This redistribution of wealth not only funded the grandeur of construction, but spurred prosperity, with employment for labourers and artisans alike. The Forum's success cascaded into the local economy, turning it into a vibrant marketplace and a hub of commerce, where merchants and vendors thrived in the bustling environment. Trajan's investment in this grand architectural vision directly contributed to Rome's prosperity, a testament to his leadership in merging fiscal acumen with infrastructural brilliance. The Forum was not just a monumental setting, but a vibrant theatre where Roman life unfolded in myriad forms. Here, ideas and philosophies collided and mingled, creating a lively blend of social dynamics. Citizens from all walks of life gathered within its boundaries, fostering an environment where the rigid class structures of Rome could, if just for a brief moment, dissolve in the melting pot of discourse. This epicenter of Roman life captured the complex fabric of society, reflecting the diverse faces and voices that composed the tapestry of the empire under Trajan's rule. Yet Trajan understood the weight of history upon new endeavours. His Forum, strategically perched alongside those of Caesar and Augustus, served as a bridge from storied past to ambitious present. Its placement and design embodied continuity and expansion, symbolising Trajan's connection to Rome's storied lineage of leaders. The architects seamlessly integrated traditional Roman elements with innovative designs, marrying stability with progress. This balance established Trajan's Forum not just as a tribute to his legacy, but as a forerunner of public spaces, reaffirming Rome's eternal centrality in an empire ever evolving. Constructing the Forum was an engineering triumph that tested the limits of Roman expertise. The builders faced daunting geographical challenges from the Capitoline and Quirinal hills, which required removing large sections of land to accommodate the Forum's layout. This feat of urban transformation showcased the era's cutting-edge techniques. The result was a display of sophistication and pride, visible in the grand arches and open spaces that celebrated Roman architectural prowess. By overcoming these obstacles, Trajan's Forum became a testament to the empire's tenacity and innovative spirit. Through time, Trajan's Forum has remained a cultural beacon, influencing art and architecture beyond Rome's decline. Its columns specifically guided narrative art's evolution, combining storytelling with massive artistic proportions. Inspiring subsequent architectural practices, the Forum set templates for the grandeur and excellence that have shaped generations. It endures as a resonant symbol of Rome's apogee, reflecting an era of unmatched splendour and vision. Finally, those who chronicled its splendour, like Cassius Dio, offer insights into its past vitality. Their accounts provide vivid glimpses into the political and personal roles such spaces played, revealing it as more than a civic centre, but a vital part of Rome's narrative. Today, as modern eyes trace the Forum's surviving stones, we are reminded of time's relentless passage, the impermanence of human achievements, and the lasting legacy of ambition. Trajan's Forum whispers across epochs, connecting us to a world defined by its quest for eternal grandeur amidst inevitable change. Under the steady gaze of Trajan, the Roman Empire reached its formidable zenith, casting its shadow from the misty isles of Britain to the fabled streets of Babylon. This monumental expanse, a breathtaking tapestry of conquest and culture, sprawled across 3 continents, with roads that wound like vital veins through the heart of Roman civilization. These roads were more than mere transport routes. They were the lifeblood of an empire, capable of dispatching legions swiftly, exchanging ideas, and transporting spices, silk and stories from one end of the empire to the other. Each city along these routes was a melting pot, where the philosophies of Gaul mingled with African myths, and where merchants from the Levant with sand-dusted sandals bartered in Iberian markets. Yet the vastness of Rome posed its own challenges. The empire's grandeur began to fray as one journeyed from Rome's opulent heart to its remote reaches. Administrators skilled in the art of maintaining provinces wielded power with precision, but were constantly at war with the enormity of the task, managing taxation, ensuring loyalty, and quelling unrest. Roman legates, soldiers turned statesmen, acted as the emperor's proxies, juggling diplomacy with the dictates of war. In distant Britannia under cold grey skies, they navigated tribal ferocity with swords that flashed hot with intent. Yet they often found themselves torn between Roman command and local needs. The cultural crossroads at the borders served another purpose beyond military strategy. They bred syncretism. Here, Roman gods shared altars with ancient deities, and Roman legal edicts entwined with native customs. This blending was both empire's pride and peril, as Roman ways were sometimes perceived as heretical invasions and taxation policies resentment among traditional societies. In places like Judea, the resistance simmered until revolts flared with fervour, challenging Roman authority. Even dominion couldn't quench the fire of those who cherished their heritage. Rome's defences were forever battle-ready, standing at kingdom's edge like sentinels against encroaching threats. To the north, Germanic tribes tested these borders with relentless incursions, their warriors echoing defiance in the forest shadows. To the east, Parthians, formidable and as ambitious as Rome itself, played a dangerous balance of power. Trajan understood that strength was as much about perception as it was about numbers. The legions were not only stationed, they were monuments in themselves, an unassailable reminder of Roman resolve. The costs of such undertakings strained the imperial budget and the emperor's coffers. Logistics were a tightrope, with supplies and reinforcements threading across distances where the empire stretched thin. Discontent brewed among conscripted soldiers from the provinces, whose loyalty was tethered to their homelands rather than to Rome's grandeur. Infrastructural marvels underscored Rome's ingenuity: roads that bridged the empire, aqueducts that carried life. These achievements manifested Rome's promise of unity, as vital as the legions that marched its spans. Maintenance required diligence, for a damaged road or an unlinked aqueduct could drown a city's beating heart in chaos. The upkeep of these proud arteries was a Herculean task, dependent on bureaucratic dexterity, straining beneath its own weight of complexity and scale. Trade hummed like a vibrant melody along these paths of stone and sea. Cities swelled with the bounty of empire, markets buzzing with voices from every culture under the sun. Taxation fed the empire's desires, the military, the games, the masses' sustenance, all driven by the relentless machinery of an economy both grand and fragile. The glittering wealth of Rome shone brightly, but its glow starkly contrasted with the shadows of discontent in poorer provinces, where heavy levies prompted fury rather than gratitude. Yet the paradox of power loomed large over Rome's expanses, an empire unmatched in history, but hindered by its own weight. Every conquest added a burden, every new province a challenge to cohesion. The emperor's edicts often whispered instead of thundered, their authority diluting as distance wore down their reach. Communication lagged, and with it, Rome's grip on authority slipped between the fingers. Trajan understood that the tapestry of Rome, as vivid as it was enormous, existed in a precarious balance. While he orchestrated masterstrokes of governance, undercurrents of instability belied the majestic surface of imperial power. Absolute control proved elusive when steered by human hands across that infinite sea of culture, and vastness. Though Rome boasted of marble statues and grand monuments, for its people, life pulsed in crowded markets and modest homes. Soldiers on foreign soil grappled with homesickness disguised in Roman attire, while branches of law and belief intertwined pragmatically. Meanwhile, in the heated arenas, gladiatorial contest echoed the empire's duality, civilization cloaked in the brutality of survival. These elements painted a picture not only of Roman life's opulence but of its deepest fissures. In Trajan's empire, myriad voices spun threads of defiance, fanning flames of rebellion. Despite his efforts to integrate dissident provinces through strength and empathy, underlying tensions endured. Revolts flickered, steadfast in their roots, and Rome's question persisted. Could a single ruler maintain dominion over such a diverse realm without igniting the very fires it sought to quell? As Trajan stood over the vastness he had sculpted, aware of the fires flickering underneath his empire, he embodied both the grandeur and the vulnerability of Rome, weaving a legacy of triumph mingling with the quiet hum of shadows at the periphery. In the grand tapestry of Roman history, Trajan stands as a figure both ambitious and visionary, his dreams echoing those of Alexander the Great. With eyes set upon the east, he aspired to extend Rome's influence deep into the heart of the Parthian Empire, a rival steeped in history and might. For Trajan, Mesopotamia was more than a place of strategic value. It beckoned with tales of ancient splendour and untapped wealth. This wasn't merely a campaign of conquest, but an epic saga aimed at defining a legacy where Rome's borders kissed the edges of the known world, surpassing the feats of emperors past. The Parthians, known for their cavalry and strategic cunning, were no ordinary foe. Trajan's journey began with his legions crossing the mighty Euphrates River, a threshold that separated Rome's reach from the realms of enigma. This river bore not only the weight of geography but also the silent whispers of superstition and myth. As Roman soldiers trudged through its waters, they stepped into a land rich with both history and uncertainty. Here under the searing sun, Trajan's engineers displayed Roman ingenuity, crafting bridges to sustain the monumental flow of men and materials. Yet, with each step into the Parthian expanse, from dense cities to endless deserts, the soldiers felt the unease of an unfamiliar world pressing down upon them. Armenia was the first bastion on this eastern journey, a land perpetually contested but vital. Its annexation offered not only a buffer against Parthian counterattacks, but also symbolised a reassertion of Roman preeminence. By replacing the Armenian king with a Roman proxy, Trajan aimed to weave Armenia into the imperial fabric, setting the stage for further advances into Parthia. This confluence of cultures, where Roman discipline met the rugged Armenian terrain, embodied Trajan's power to both absorb and influence, casting Rome's shadow far into the east. The ultimate prize loomed large: Ctesiphon, the illustrious Parthian capital on the Tigris River. Here, where trade routes converged and empires clashed, Trajan's legions erected a formidable network of fortifications for a siege that tested the mettle of both attackers and defenders. Roman siege engines towered over the city's defences, each strike against the walls echoing with the weight of history and ambition. Yet the defenders, hardened by tradition and resilience, resisted fiercely, turning the protracted struggle into one of attrition. Ctesiphon's eventual fall marked a victory, as grandiose as it was temporary. A blow to Parthian prestige, yet a challenge to maintain a restive, diverse population under Roman control. Pushing further south, Trajan approached Babylon, a city of legends woven into the ancient world's very heart. The conquest of Babylon was less about territory than about command over history itself. But beneath its crumbling ruins thrived a living city, complicated and diverse. To some, Rome's arrival heralded liberation, while others viewed it as intrusive domination. Holding Babylon meant more than military occupation. It demanded careful balance between Roman governance and respect for Babylon's proud heritage, a delicate weave of diplomacy and tradition intended to craft an enduring legacy. Yet even as victories piled up, cracks began to form. Trajan's logistical limitations revealed themselves amidst the vast Parthian terrain. Supply lines, the lifeblood of any military endeavour, strained under the weight of distance and unfamiliarity, forcing the emperor to reckon with a desert that defied Roman control. Despite meticulous planning, the harsh landscape and unpredictable Parthian resistance strained resources and morale alike. The ambition that had driven the legions forward now began to feel like an overreach. Localized uprisings soon sprang forth, ignited by the friction between imperial demands and the longing for autonomy amongst the conquered peoples. These ripples turned into waves of rebellion, as local leaders fueled national pride and struck back against Roman rule through guerrilla tactics. Such revolts, small yet potent reminders of Rome's fragility, stymied Trajan's dream of a unified domain and posed questions about the empire's true limits. Despite Roman strength, Parthian resistance persisted with an indomitable will. Where Rome marched with organisation and discipline, the Parthians answered with knowledge of land and agile warfare. They employed hit-and-run tactics, striking at Rome's vulnerabilities in ways no shield could weather. Here in the dust of Parthia, Trajan's aspirations collided with reality. The dream of easy subduing faltered as the landscape and Parthian cunning conspired against the emperor's goals. Ultimately, the campaign ended not in triumph, but in a strategic retreat. Despite its initial victories, the campaign's legacy lay not in territorial gains, but in the harsh lessons of overreach. The cities that had fallen became fleeting victories, as the unyielding resistance of Parthians and the logistical constraints of empire dashed hopes of long-term success. This withdrawal was steeped in bitter recognition of limitations, as Trajan's grand designs clashed with the entrenched realities of keeping distant lands under control. What emerged was not Alexander reborn, but a testament to Rome's boundaries, both literal and aspirational. This haunting journey into Parthia served as a lesson for future emperors, reminding them that even the mightiest dreams must heed the constraints of the physical world. When Trajan's empire stretched across the vast territories of the ancient world, Judea simmered with resentment. This small region, known for its entrenched religious beliefs and cultural pride, bore wounds from past Roman conquests, including the demolition of the Second Temple in 70 CE. The Judeans longed for a sense of autonomy, their simmering discontent stoked by Roman taxation and the constant presence of foreign soldiers treading upon their sacred soil. Trajan's imperial ambitions, though marked by his pragmatic nature, only served to further deepen these tensions. As he sought to solidify power, Rome's heavy-handed governance felt to the Judeans like an erosion of their identity, sparking a defiant flame that soon erupted into rebellion. The revolt in Judea was not a sudden conflagration, but the culmination of growing discontent. Around 115 CE, grievances coalesced into actions, with protests and minor skirmishes escalating into full-blown insurrection. Each side clashed fiercely, the Judeans employing strategic guerrilla tactics against the might of Trajan's legions, accustomed to traditional warfare. Determined to stamp out the uprising, Trajan appointed new kings, hoping these local leaders, often seen as puppets, might bridge the chasm between Roman authority and Judean autonomy. However, these appointments only inflamed the situation, perceived as a betrayal by many of the locals. Thus began a haunting dance of capture, recapture, and obliteration that stained the land. Trajan's response hardened as the conflict deepened. His moments of tolerance vanished, replaced by an unwavering resolve to quell the insurrection with force. The Roman military, a formidable embodiment of imperial might, enacted a brutal campaign characterized by city burnings, massacres, and relentless sieges. Mercy was a fleeting thought in a war defined by draconian measures, and as city after city fell, both Romans and Judeans bore the heavy cost of this brutality. Trajan's reputation as a benevolent ruler was overshadowed by the harshness required to maintain his sprawling empire, revealing the inherent instability of a domain disconnected from its myriad parts. The horrors of war left indelible scars on Judea's landscape. Roman legions executed scorched earth tactics, obliterating any city or citizen that dared resist. Lydda and Caesarea met with catastrophic ends, entire populations decimated, survivors sold to slavery. Yet the Judean rebels did not concede quietly. Their guerrilla warfare persisted, striking Roman supporters and defying foreign encroachment with fiery vengeance. The obliteration of Roman symbols and acts of defiance underscored their doomed struggle for autonomy, injecting a tragic but compelling resolve into the revolt. In this gruesome conflict, humanity's folly paired with remarkable resilience, painting an unflinchingly vivid picture of empire's ambitions and the desperate bids for freedom it provoked. Though driven to contain the chaos, Trajan knew force alone was insufficient to cement peace. By 117 CE, engaged deeply elsewhere, he realized concessions were necessary. The revolt was a constant reminder of imperial fragility, where domination clashed with the need for conciliation. Trajan attempted to stabilize Judea by integrating loyalists into governance, though often from its reluctant nobility. Peace terms were proposed, as much a facade of reconciliation as they were tools to dismantle insurgent networks. However, the deep wounds inflicted by war left unrest simmering under Judea's fragile peace, foreshadowing future uprisings and highlighting the difficulties in blending imperial dominance with local dynamics. Trajan's legacy in Judea is a poignant testament to the challenges and restraints of Roman rule. The aftermath of his actions resonated long after his reign, fueling perceptions of Rome as both an architect of civilization and a harbinger of destruction. The scars born from the revolt fueled an enduring spirit of resistance, nurturing a collective memory that informed subsequent rebellions against the imperial yoke. While Trajan was celebrated elsewhere for Rome's zenith, Judea remained a haunting reminder of the empire's human cost, the societal tensions that threatened cohesion, and the formidable obstacles posed by repressive governance. Historical narratives born from this chaos, though sparse, provide glimpses into those embroiled in the conflict. Chroniclers like Cassius Dio and Tacitus deliver military perspectives, while Jewish texts such as the Talmud offer cultural insights. These diverse accounts converge on a common thread: an unrepentant drive for self-determination amid overpowering might. Stories of daring escapes, cunning strategies, and misplaced Roman arrogance reveal much about human nature's tenacity. This mingling of chronicles underscores a complex mural of war, resistance, and cultural endurance that transcends time, pegging Judea's defiance as a symbol of both empire's frailties and an indomitable human spirit. Even today, the reverberations of the Judean revolt offer reflection on empire's limitations. Trajan's challenges foreshadowed the eventual cracks in Rome's veneer, while Judea's legacy endured in resistance law, seeding future dissent. The revolt stands as a mirror to imperial ambition's highs and lows, a narrative rich with historical insights and emotional truths. It reminds us that power's dance with liberty continues its timeless pas de deux, a testament to the enduring complexities of conquest and the undying quest for freedom. In the sprawling expanse of the Roman Empire, where legions marched and conquered, the figure of Trajan emerges not just as a military titan, but as a visionary of compassion. His journey from a soldier's son to Rome's revered ruler unfolded amidst the dust and din of battlefields, yet his legacy ripples through corridors of welfare and care. Envision a leader not consumed merely by the thrill of conquest, but one whose sights were fixed on the lives within his empire's embrace. Trajan, hailed as Optimus Princeps, dared to weave a tapestry of governance, where power converged with a profound sense of civic duty. The empire, expansive and unwieldy, thrived under Trajan's touch, easing the stark divides between patrician and plebeian. Here was a leader who recognised that a populace thriving in health and education was paramount to the strength of Rome's sinews. Away from the shimmering gold of victory stood his genuine offerings to the common citizen. Trajan's reforms were not just fleeting patches on age-old wounds. They were scaffolds for future resiliency, closing the chasm between society's echelons, hewing a pathway to prosperity. Amidst these, his Alimenta programme broke new ground, both radical and humane. Directed at nurturing Rome's future, it funneled care and sustenance into the lives of its children, especially those left bereft by circumstance. Trajan's vision, uncommon for his time, was an investment in lives, fostering a sense of unity within diverse townships who received aid to nurture their own. By dexterously managing lands and funds, he avoided the sting of taxes, weaving a net of goodwill that bound province to empire. Keenly aware that politics need more than force, Trajan's Alimenta exemplified a leadership ready to foster and sustain, rather than merely command. Yet in the shadow of the Colosseum and the bustling Forum lay the granaries of Rome, pulsing with a rhythm orchestrated by Trajan's foresight. Grain, both sustenance and symbol, underpinned peace, staving off famine and its attendant chaos. Trajan imbued the grain distribution with intelligence and order, veering from erratic handouts to introduce systems of sustainability. Pivotal trade routes sketched across the map under his rule ensured a steady flow, even in drought's ruthless grip. Within these silos and ships, a testament to his understanding loomed, a ruler who saw hunger as much a foe as any barbarian tribe. But look further, beyond the hills, where Roman roads stretched like sinews across the empire, raising cities from chaos into coordination. Through Trajan's pragmatic eyes, infrastructure was not the emperor's vanity, but vital cords binding the empire. Bridges spanned rivers, aqueducts spilled life-giving water into bustling urban centres, and harbours buzzed with the hum of commerce. These were strands woven to ensure each village and metropolis thrived in cohesion, reflecting the might and mercy of Rome. Trajan's presence echoed through these endeavours, ensuring completion with a soldier's precision yet an artist's heart. His reforms were not confined to structure, but seeped into the very essence of justice. Trajan's discerning eye surveyed the realm of Roman law, a labyrinth prone to injustices and caprice. There he moved with intention, smoothing the administration of justice, ensuring transparency, and setting firm hands to guide the moral compass of the empire. Provincial governors found in Trajan a ruler demanding competence and heart, shaping a judicial arena that valued its citizens, casting aside shadowy corridors of corruption. Yet his efforts did not halt at governance and grain. The very essence of Roman heath, the waters they bathed in, the air they breathed, became Trajan's domain as he championed health and sanitation. Aqueducts expanded under his decree, offering clean water, a vital artery of life. In gritty streets, waste systems were overhauled, reducing the spectre of disease that loomed over the dense populace. Trajan's vision ensured these invisible networks strengthened Rome's foundation, a silent yet unyielding testament to his focus on the health, strength, and perseverance of his people. Trajan, cunning and kind, navigated the maze of class and custom with a deft hand. His reforms respected traditions, weaving the old with new, to ensure buy-in from senators and citizens alike. Equestrians found their stature bolstered, while even the patricians discerned that his leadership was not the erosion of privilege, but a catalyst for cooperative governance. He embodied empery that partnered with people, less command, more collaboration. Rome, anchored by its rituals and devout observances, found Trajan an astute navigator of their customs. He moulded divine will with imperial wizardry, orchestrating festivals and sacrifices that married tradition to kingship, lending divine favour to his reign. Trajan's legacy, steeped in empathy and ambition, emerges like a fresco from time's shadows, an exemplar of rule not bounded by ambition, but ennobled by compassion. His reign, an ancient melody, weaves through history, its notes played not just in stone and steel, but in the thriving of an empire's spirit, a testament forever inscribed in the annals of Rome. The road from the east stretched long and unforgiving, as Trajan, once robust and indefatigable, began to falter. The years spent campaigning under harsh suns and across unyielding terrains now showed in every step. What first appeared as an inconsequential ailment had become a significant hindrance. Despite his pains, the emperor's resolve remained ironclad. He was determined to return to Rome. His journey westward became a spectacle, a grand procession of military splendour, as peasants and soldiers alike lined the paths to catch a glimpse of the man who had expanded the empire's reach. However, with every mile, more of his legendary strength seemed to ebb away, whispered through corridors in quiet concern by those in his retinue. In those times, illness often bore the mark of displeasure from the gods or destiny's cruel hand. Here was Trajan, the mighty architect of conquests, finding himself in a battle not against men but against fate itself. Physicians joined his caravan, bringing with them the accumulated medical knowledge of the age. Yet even their potions and rituals could not stem the tide of his decline. Trajan, a commander used to decisive victories on battlefields, now faced the discouraging uncertainty of an invisible enemy that sapped his vigour, a foe immune to his cunning and strategy. The coastal city of Selinus in Cilicia became an unplanned sanctuary for the weary emperor. Here, nestled between olive groves and the gentle embrace of the Mediterranean breeze, Trajan sought respite. Carried into the city with a care befitting a weary elder rather than a triumphant hero, Selinus offered its peace, but also silence, a space to reflect amidst the buzz of markets and cicadas. Around him, the trappings of Rome persisted, a miniature empire in his temporary home, as senators and soldiers awaited his word, though his dispatches grew increasingly rare and disjointed. In solitary moments, Trajan's thoughts turned to his past, a solitary emperor now shadowed by his own achievements. He was a ruler with much to ponder. The ambition of his Parthian campaigns now felt more like cautionary tales than triumphs. Memories of cities conquered and lives taken loomed larger, the ghostly chorus of fallen soldiers haunting his thoughts. The quiet of Selinus served not as an escape, but as a reminder of both his victories and missteps, an emperor wrestling with the scope of his reign. Even as Trajan grappled with his memories, he found solace in conversations with Hadrian. This confidant, both a student and successor, absorbed the wisdom of an empire builder in twilight. Their dialogues often meandered from formidable visions of the future to reflections on the past. Trajan, though weakened, still shared insights from the depths of experience, shaping Hadrian's perspective on the empire's vastness. In what may have been his final act of leadership, Trajan summoned his remaining strength to issue an edict, not one carved by conquest but by governance. It was a directive focused on the enduring welfare of the state, encompassing the very heart of his leadership ethos, ensuring the ongoing stability of provinces, the distribution of grain, and the maintenance of military strength. This final decree, pressed with the emperor's seal, echoed the longevity of his governance, testament to a legacy that would outlive its author. Trajan's life ended softly within the harbour city of Selinus. The night was quiet yet heavy with sea breezes whispering through the timeless columns of Rome's presence. An emperor who had once commanded legions across continents now departed in silence, his spirit transcending mortal confines. The news of his passing rippled through the empire, a collective halt felt from the deserts of Egypt to the remote hills of Britannia. Citizens and senators alike paused to honour an emperor so deeply woven into the fabric of Rome. His ashes travelled back to Rome not under arms but via a cortege, a solemn procession across the Italian landscape. The roads bore witness to tributes from a grieving populace, a poignant farewell to their sovereign. Upon reaching Rome, his remains found a home in the base of his towering column, an eternal testament to his impact carved in stone. Here his memory cast its long shadow across the bustling forum, a reminder of his reign's monumental scale. The emperor's death led to widespread mourning, a profound communal grief reflected in public rites across the empire. From Rome to distant provincial outposts, expressions of loyalty and reverence emerged, reflecting a legacy of both conquest and care. Romans recalled his military triumphs and his governance, which had touched countless lives. Memorials intertwined with mourning, etching Trajan's name indelibly into the collective memory, ensuring his legend stood among Rome's most revered figures. Trajan's legacy endured, a blend of fearless expansion and attentive governance. Under his rule, the empire reached unprecedented heights, both geographically and in the principles of leadership he espoused. Challenges arose alongside triumphs, yet within those complexities lay the seeds of unity and resilience. As the tides of time ebbed on, Trajan's narrative persisted, resilient and revered, a beacon to future generations charting their destinies across Rome's vast expanse, an enduring tribute to a warrior statesman who had shaped the world in his image. In the twilight of Rome's glory, where stories converge and realities unfold, Trajan is known as the emperor who who dared to dream on a grand scale. Immortalised as Optimus Princeps, or the best ruler, Trajan did not inherit this adulation without merit. It resonated from the very stones of the empire he expanded and from the people who thrived under his rule. Trajan's administration brought about unrivaled expansion, and his military prowess carved out an empire stretching from Britain to Babylon. Unlike his predecessors, his governance was marked by a personal touch. He walked among soldiers, dined with commoners, radiating an inclusivity that secured loyalty and admiration. Yet as his narrative ascended into legend, it also bore the marks of inherent complexities. A burgeoning empire fraught with silent vulnerabilities. While Trajan's reign represented a zenith in governance, underneath lay the seeds of challenge. His achievements demanded logistical brilliance, a feat both his triumphs and infrastructure did not fully anticipate. The intricate network of territories, though awe-inspiring, revealed faint echoes of strain as distant outposts and settlements began to splinter under the burdens of taxation and resources. The sprawling expanse of the empire was as much a testament to Rome's might as it was a precursor to its structural limits. Grain and goods depended precariously on remote origins, whispering of cracks in a facade of impervious power. The delicate shadow of succession loomed over Trajan's legacy, a spectre not unfamiliar to Rome. Lacking biological heirs, Trajan engaged in the arduous task of identifying a rightful successor able to continue the Roman ideal. This search morphed into a near-mythical endeavour, steeped in the superstitions and political calculations of Rome's elite. Upon Trajan's passing, Hadrian, his chosen successor, emerged a leader whose competence in both civilian and martial capacities was proven, yet whose selection was rumoured to bear the influence of Plotina, Trajan's wife. In the labyrinthine politics of imperial Rome, the choice of heir underscored the volatility constantly simmering within its noble walls, silently etching crucial lessons onto the annals of history. Amidst the grandiosity of expansion and military exploits, Trajan was keenly aware of the necessity to imbue Rome with cultural serendipity and welfare. His reign pervaded through the architecture of magnanimous public works, sculpted not just to dazzle, but to drive societal progress. Urban proliferation brimmed with marketplaces and granaries, welfare programs aimed at the impoverished masses. The civic exuberance masked growing disquiet, as rural foundations shouldered somewhat disproportionate burdens to supply the empire's insatiable urban heartlands. Beneath the clamour of bustling cities, whispers of inequality and exhaustion laced the fields, forecasting economic challenges that would later resonate through time. Yet perhaps one of the most vivid spectacles of Trajan's Rome was the grand display within the Colosseum, a cultural canvas where violence and entertainment intertwined starkly. The games weren't mere diversions, they were proclamations of power, a stage where the might of Rome entertained and subjugated, drawing eyes away from political strifes. The celebrations within its walls showcased blood and valour, entertainment that intoxicated citizens, while simultaneously cloaking questions regarding morality and priority. The roar of the Colosseum echoed an empire's ethos, presenting contradictions between the battles fought on the arena floor and the aristocratic observers in stoic contemplation. Trajan's military machine, heralded as a paragon of prowess, eventually displayed the fine balance it walked on. The empire's soft paws flexed triumphantly across vast dominions, yet hinted at a creeping fragility. Legions that once sensed invincibility gradually perceived the ineffable stretch of their commands. Demands placed on soldiers and supply lines painted a vivid portrait of resilience marred by apprehensions, begging inventive strategies to sustain the grandeur, all while shadows of complacency and fatigue gathered subtly, portending imperatives for strategic recalibration. Informed by his architectural vision, Trajan sculpted a landscape of monumental grandeur, where towering edifices did more than defy the horizon. They documented imperial ambition. His column rose as a testament to Dacian victories, a narrative in stone vaulting across the periods, capturing an ethos of eternal Rome preserved through sculpted imagery. These towering constructs, however, belied a reliance on opulent grandeur over nuanced sustainability, unintentionally nourishing seeds of Rome's decline gleaming beneath their polished exteriors. Trajan's reign, while a masterpiece of administration and cultural renaissance, grappled with budding factionalism and intrigue behind the polished bureaucracy. The tendrils of Roman administration began revealing complexity, a divide between elite governance and popular discourse that never quite reconciled, seeping like an unseen current, influencing Rome's steadfast visage. Rome, enthralled by arts and intellectual endeavours, nurtured cultural diversity that revealed an empire still learning its identity, even as invisible divisions stitched different classes in varying fortunes. As Trajan's legend evolved into myth, he occupied a storied place within Rome, his deeds and image amplified across lands where the line between history and mythology blurred. Legends cast across landscapes articulated virtue and valour, weaving into an identity Rome revered even as it connived at myth's artifice. Yet Rome, poised at its summit, had already begun pondering its fate. Trajan's epoch heralded not just triumph, but also introspective acknowledgement that even eternal empires ebb, their tides receding in eloquent symphony. In reflection, while Trajan's columns and conquest echoed brilliantly, they leave us asking, what lays beyond the horizon of such greatness? Please like, subscribe, and embark on further journeys into history.